One of the most effective ways of building trust with potential clients is by sharing stories of your past work, being able to tell in an emotional way how you've solved problems for other clients. How is your company doing at this? Are you consistently sharing these stories in an emotional and memorable way, so that way when prospects are looking at multiple companies, your stories are the ones they remember? On today's episode, we're diving into all of what we've learned over the years creating video testimonials. What's the difference between a good videographer and a bad videographer? What questions do you ask in these testimonials? Questions like these so that when you have the big job that you need to capture the testimonial for, you know you can make the most of that opportunity.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Contractor Growth Network podcast. I'm Logan Shinholster, and today we're back in the studio with Aaron Horner.
Hello. Glad to be back.
We're going to be going all through. We've been getting a lot of questions from clients, from prospects about video testimonials. And I typically have to be the bearer of bad news when it comes to how to do video testimonials because they are very hard. So doing them, and when I say video testimonial, this is you just finished a project for a client. They're super happy. They're over the moon about what it looked like to work with you. And you're thinking, I should probably get them on video and have them talk through the experience of what it looked like to work with us, so I can then somehow use that video in our marketing to get more people to buy from us as well.
Yeah.
And when I typically go to them and tell them, hey, I got some bad news, Aaron, what do you think I tell them?
It's not as easy as you think. It would be my first thing from talking to people.
And what are some of the things that make it not as easy?
I think a lot of people generally, if you haven't given it much thought before, you'll put the camera in front of them, you'll ask a few questions. You're not giving too much thought to how professional the video and audio setup is, and also the content of the interview. Yeah, I think like those are the two main sections people. Yeah.
So we have a list of like some of the questions that people ask about it, and it really comes in with like everybody first asks, what questions do I ask them? Do I have to send them in advance? Should I hire a photographer or a videographer, or should I use my iPhone, or could I just go out and buy a camera for this?
Yeah.
Like who then edits this stuff? Am I having to edit this? Should I prioritize this stuff now, or like do I come back to this stuff later? What if I have a great project, but my clients are uncomfortable with being on camera? How do I convince them with how to do it?
Yeah.
So it's all those things that basically what we're going to talk about today is like breaking down the steps of like to do this thing the correct way. How do we approach it? What are some of the specific tactical things that you want to be thinking about? Because candidly, and this is going to kind of suck to say, even if we tell you all these things from a tactical perspective and say, do this in this exact way, it's still probably going to come out differently than how you're going in thinking it's going to come out, or it's going to have a different end result as far as like you put it out on the internet and you think all these people are now going to reach out to you because of it, but that may not happen.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind of like, Aaron, how long have you been doing video testimonial stuff for?
Specifically for remodelers, like 4 years or 3 years, something like that, but specifically for this industry for remodelers.
And if you were to look back at, let's say, the first set of videos that you did, and you had to give yourself a grade of an A through an F, what would you give yourself on those first ones, knowing what you know now?
A solid C. I can think back to the one for Farrell's Lawn and Garden that we made that we were very proud of.
We loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loved it. And then when you look back on it now, you're like, oh.
This is so boring.
It's like, yeah. So you learn along the way. But basically, let's go through, I guess, some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make, and then we'll go through the actual process.
Okay. So I think who specifically, what people? Do you want me to address people who are hiring a videographer?
No, let's just go with like the remodeler, because like I would say, okay, well that's a good delineation. So let's just go with you're a remodeling company. You just did a killer project that you would love to get the client on video for.
Yeah.
What are some of your options as far as how do you do it?
So I guess you have three options, unless I think of more as I'm speaking. The first is you document it yourself, which is, I'll watch some videos, I'll do something, I can do this myself, shoot it yourself. The other is you have somebody on your team, maybe it's a social media person, somebody that is somewhat apt to do this, that you bring in, or you hire somebody outside, like an agency or a local videographer, which even those might be two different things.
And there's also people that are like, oh, I'll have my photographer. Because my photographer said,
Yeah.
I'm going to come out and shoot or capture a bunch of photos.
I'll be there anyways.
Yeah, I'll be there anyways for an extra $200, $500, whatever it is. Do you want me to have the person on camera?
That's a good point, because that would sound very appealing, because then you're thinking this person is a professional. It does make sense. They're already going to be there. They know how to make things look good. I don't see why they couldn't.
So let's talk about pros and cons of each. Let's go first with the first one of like, you're the owner. You know what you want the person to talk about. You're like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Pros and cons of that.
There's a wide range I've seen of people interviewing their clients of understanding of what the story of the project is. Sometimes as the owner, I think they do have a good understanding of, they're thinking about it in a sales sense. What do I need to get across to somebody? And they can kind of direct clients in that way. But more often than not, they will get distracted on certain things. Like, I think the business owner, one of the times that I'm speaking about this a lot, I talk about the curse of knowledge. Like, you know too many details that it's hard for you to back out and look at the whole picture again and ask questions that will give that. So they'll miss big things. Like, I'll see people that will have a testimonial, and at no point in the testimonial will they say what work was done. Because to everybody there, it's obvious. The homeowners know exactly what was done. The contractor knows exactly what was done. But for the people watching, you don't know the full scope of work. So was it just the kitchen, or did we do these built-ins over here, or was it kitchen plus some bathrooms, that kind of stuff? So that's, I think, one of the biggest things people miss right away is they can't zoom out and get rid of that curse of knowledge.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that would be, and I guess the pro would then be, you don't have to pay any money for this because you're the one you're the one doing it.
Yeah, and to be fair, if you go and you hire somebody that knows how to operate a camera, they don't know about sales. And so if you are the business owner, at one point, at the very least, you were in a sales seat. And if not now, you're still in a sales seat. So if you're thinking about it from that mindset, that gives you some perspective of what to ask and what's important. But if, like the photographer, for example, probably not as skilled in sales as you are. So their questions might not be as helpful. So I think you might have a little bit of a leg up versus somebody that has absolutely no clue what they're doing.
So you're saying it's almost better to have the business owner not knowing how to really work a camera do this rather than a photographer who says, I could maybe tack this thing on? Or is it kind of like...
It's really tough, because to say one of the two, like...
Well, couldn't you then make the argument, best case scenario is like, okay, well, you have a photographer who's out there,
Yeah.
and then you have the homeowner or the business owner that's asking the questions.
Yeah.
Or is that then, I guess that kind of goes back to the first point, which was the business owner is going to ask very, like, what was like working with, like, basically questions that don't even say what you did.
I guess the thing is, like, with practice, that's not a skill that you can't overcome. That's not a thing you can't learn. So if you're willing to put in that time and, like, here's the questions I should ask and make sure you're covering all the bases, like, that's an attainable route. Like, Joe Fry, one of our clients, like, that is exactly the relationship we have set up with him, where he has a photographer who's very good at doing photos. He tried to do some video testimonials for him. Joe ended up not liking them. So the way it works now is the photographer shoots the video, Joe runs the interview, and he sends them over to us for editing.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's an attainable situation, but Joe's been doing it for a long time, and he was also willing to eat a lot of testimonials that, frankly, like, he threw out because it just didn't go well the first few times.
And we'd also, at that point, we'd flown out and done all their videos as well.
So he'd seen it in person.
He was, like, immersed in
Yeah.
what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically like, you know, you have the owner do it themselves. Somebody who is, let's say, you have an in-house social media person.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that, because you could maybe make the argument that's best of both worlds, where, like, they know a little bit more about the business, they know more about maybe how to operate a camera. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons for that. So if you're looking at somebody to make something just for social media, and it's more relatable, more grounded, I guess that's fine. If that's your goal, like if the goal of the video is to come off as relatable, and usually this person, like, what they'll enjoy about it is, like, the fun side of social media, like, it will come off as more friendly. But if you want to show off the quality of your work and make it look prestigious, that's when it would behoove you to get somebody who knows how to use a camera better and can actually capture it in an artistic way.
So it's almost like, if you want somebody to come in and capture it like an architectural digest, that's a very different skill set than somebody who's going to capture it like how it's going to go on TikTok.
Yeah.
And you may be thinking like, well, our style isn't really like quote unquote TikTok because it has like maybe like a negative connotation as you're listening to it. But when you have a social media person who's good at social media do it, it's inevitably going to feel a lot closer to a TikTok style video rather than an architectural digest video, and those can both work, but they serve two very different purposes with two very different outcomes.
Yeah, it's different. Think about the different people you're targeting. Like, I think everybody at this point would be familiar with those like story-centric social media videos of like home transformations where it's basically a voiceover the whole time. Somebody's delivering like, here's what we did, and the footage is very satisfying. It shows you all the changes they made. That's a very different value that you're selling there versus an architectural digest. We've already built the space. Now look how beautiful it is. Recap video, something like that.
And then moving over to the actual photographer doing this.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about pros and cons. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think really the main con is just going to be that interview. Like it is very possible they will be apt with videography as well. It's something I would like to vet beforehand, unless you're willing to burn one to try it out. But I would like to see their work before I went through and committed to that with a photographer, because it doesn't always translate one-to-one.
And I feel like, I don't know photography as well as you do. I barely know it. But, like, when it comes to this stuff, like, typically who you're going to hire to come in and shoot your photos is going to be a real estate photographer that is not used to actually having a subject.
Yeah.
So somebody who would do, like, a family portrait would almost be, like, more aligned with like an interview, but typically you don't want somebody who does family portraits to come out and shoot a brand new kitchen.
No, that's a good point. Like their focus might be entirely different. Like unless you have somebody very specialized that you're thinking of that you have the utmost confidence in their quality of work, real estate photographers or real estate videographers, I would almost entirely stray away from at this point. Because like you're saying, like their emphasis is just in a different way. Like the business model for those career paths are all about speed. Like that's all they're trying to do is get it done quickly, and as like they just want to be in and out, which isn't what you really want when you're trying to showcase the beauty of the project.
So we basically, I know we said pros and cons, but we basically just listed cons for everything. So like at this point, basically the way that we're coming off is like it's not worth it. So How can it work well? Like, what is a scenario where you can actually do this thing right to that? Like, I guess, what does that process look like?
Okay. So that's a good point. I mean, that is how my brain works, is I naturally just take things away. I think about all the negatives to start, and then I see what's left. So, I mean, like, there is a realistic situation where you can have a videographer who you trust to make things look beautiful, and you're willing to put in the effort to learn how to run a testimonial and an interview, which is different from a sales call, I would think. You know more about sales than I do. But there's a difference between it, and we can get more into that if you want. And then sending it to somebody, whether that's, your videographer can do the editing or something like that, but somebody specialized needs to handle the editing as well. Yeah.
Because there's really, like, several components to this, and the first one is like the actual like capturing of the interview itself.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people that are more quote unquote social media people don't do a great job of, because there's a whole level which we'll go through is like framing it and making sure you have the right equipment and I didn't realize how impactful lighting was until like we started doing this, but I realized very quickly like the lighting is like a huge component of this stuff.
Yeah.
So there's like that level of like the actual like technical component of the thing.
Yeah.
Then the next part is going to be the actual like story in the interview. So knowing what to ask, what is good enough. I mean, when you first started it, you would go out and you would ask the homeowner of like, why'd you get this kitchen done? And they're like, I didn't like my old kitchen. You're like, perfect answer.
Of course.
And then, as you've gotten more and more into it, and this is what
sales
is.
We went too far the other way for a bit.
We did do that, where it was just like, tell me about your childhood of like what traumatic events happened in your family kitchen that you wanted to renovate this, so
We were getting into it, and it was like we had a couple where people cried.
Yeah.
And then we were like, if they don't cry, it's not a good video.
yeah. We're like, did you ever have a dog die in this kitchen? Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so we went too far that way. Yeah,
So
I could go off on a tangent on
Yeah,
that.
so but it was good because it was good practice. I mean, that was like a whole thing that like you and I and then Chris and you practiced where it was a lot of like, I mean, it's just like with sales, like the first time that you're like, hey, why do you want to renovate your home? And they're like, I just don't like it. And you're like, oh, perfect answer. Like, versus like,
Yeah.
okay, you're about to spend a lot of money and you're about to do all these other things. Like, there's got to be more than just like you don't like it. Like, did you just happen to stumble upon $300,000 and you don't like it? That's
Yep.
different than like your hard-earned, so it's the ability to almost like understand what like the end goal or the end line is.
Yeah.
And then how can you strategically get people to that place, but also keeping them comfortable
Yeah.
while you're doing it. Because that's a huge part of it of, people hopping on camera and during the interview. And I'm like, is this person going to throw up? Like, are they going to be okay?
Yeah.
So to me, you have the interview style. Then the last part is the actual editing. Like, how do you actually put all this stuff together? And that's a huge thing that like I felt like I was really good at the interview stuff. Me personally, Logan, I didn't really know about any of the technical stuff, so I can't really speak to that. And then the editing, I was like, oh, this is just like basically just tell the story, but clip it down and put some B-roll over it. But like as you've gone through it, you've learned a hell of a lot more. Then like,
Yeah.
all right, let's actually look at when the view rates are dropping off, and let's see, like we used to go for a very heavy HGTV style of things. We learned very quickly, like the client or the homeowner or the person that's watching the HGTV, they like the actual like
The host.
The host.
They're watching it for the host.
So they like the host a lot. So you're not watching it for the end result. But in this case, like the host would be like the homeowner. You don't know the homeowner.
You don't know that. Yeah, I thought for a bit you need to get them emotionally invested in the homeowner's story, and you need them to start rooting for them and like them. To do that and tell the story of a remodel and have it be like satisfying in this without it being overly long, like that's incredibly hard to do. What you really have to do is just get them bought into like, do I like this project? Which is much easier because that's why they're coming to the video.
So let's talk now. Let's pivot over to, and with this, and to put a bow on it to kind of summarize it, it can be done. You can have a local videographer.
Yeah.
And we have documentation that we like show to clients that ask. We're like, hey, this is how an interview is done. Here's a 27-minute version of the video. Now here's a 13-minute version of the exact same interview. And then now here's the final 2.5, 3-minute video that basically whittles it all down. That's the final edit, but you're able to actually see how do we go from this long thing to this medium thing to this very tight thing, and what's all the shots with it. So it can be done. It's just training and practice and understanding what that needs to look like. So we'll go through that. But first, what is the whole point of the video? Because we used to do videos, and then clients are like, I love this video. What do I do with it? And we're like,
yeah, good point.
You put it on your website.
Yeah, show it to people.
You, I don't know, like if MySpace came back, like you set that as your profile. Like, so what is the point of the video in your mind?
I think to me it is thinking about like the benefit of the medium of video is the best way to get the story across to a prospect. I think the best home for it is like it needs to be featured on a page on your website that also has the photography and some additional details of the project. To me, I think that's the best use case is either you're talking to a prospect and they have an idea for a project that sounds very similar to one you did before. The nice thing about having a video and feature project page on it is you can now get credit for all of those past works you've done. The idea is that you can then share that story with them and now prove to them, yes, I know exactly what you're saying. This is exactly the problem this person was having, and here's what we did to help them. So now they have much more confidence in your ability to solve their problem because they've seen you do it before.
What's the benefit then of doing, I mean, if the whole point is like to build that confidence, what's the benefit of having a video at the top of the page versus just having the photos and like a written out story below it? Because I know we stack them both, but in your mind,
you can convey more emotion through the video. The video, like there's music that goes along with the video. There's editing, the way the project is showed off. Like it's a lot less sterile. If somebody's just trying to get a quick overview of what it is, they can read the text and get that. But somebody that's actually interested, it's actually somebody that wants this kind of project in their home, they want to get a better feel for the space. The video allows you to move through the space. You can actually, it's closer to having a home walkthrough. Like if you were able to invite that person into the project over to the house to physically be in the space, the video gets you much closer to that, as well as expressing the emotion of the homeowner that you did the work for. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the actual, like, how do you actually shoot a good video? So, like, what is the setup? What is the prep? Let's just go through kind of like the different stages, if you will, of like before you go out to the house. Like, you've identified a client that has said, if you ever want me to like do anything to help your business, you let me know. You love the project. It looks good. This would be a prime candidate for it. Talk to me about like, how are you prepping this, or how are you like, are you just showing up on that day and going, great, I got my iPhone, let's go? Or like, what does the prep work look like? 'Cause that's a big part.
Yeah, we've done I think like we basically tried every approach over the years of what should you do. And we've tried like almost everyone you can think of. What I've ultimately found is like, it's best to have a good understanding of what the story is going into it. And a lot of people hear the word story, but they don't know what it means. Essentially, it's what's the single sentence that sums up what they had done and why. Like my go-to example I always use is my favorite testimonial still, I think to this day probably, the Integrity Home Pro kitchen that we did, where they were deciding between, our kids have moved out, do we now move or do we renovate this house so now that we can have the big family gatherings here? And that was their whole motivation. Like, you don't have to, make them cry and that kind of stuff, but having a good understanding of like, that's essentially why they got it done. It's not because they weren't happy about the kitchen, that kind of thing. They wanted to have their children come back home.
So in that case, did you know that, like, how did you personally figure that storyline out? Did you interview the client? Because
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so for that one specifically, what we did was we interviewed the clients before we went out. I think that if you're having your videographer run the interview, either you need to provide them with that story, and if you don't have confidence, then having like it doesn't need to be anything super formal, but some sort of conversation between the videographer and the homeowner before will be helpful.
And if we're trying to sell, like in this example, so basically they said, we're either moving or we're going to renovate our kitchen. They ended up renovating the kitchen. Is it like everybody has to have, like, for it to be a good video testimonial, you have to have some like bigger problem or bigger thing at play other than just like, in this case, what if they just said, we just didn't like the old kitchen?
Everybody has one.
Okay.
There's not a person who doesn't. Like,
so there's like some sentimental. So like in my house, for example, right now, like we just finished a home edition. We wanted more space. Is it then like, great, your job as the business owner is to either go to the salesperson or you, the business owner, have to say there's got to be what's the whole South Park thing? It's like, because
to make a story interesting, you can never just keep saying and. It either needs to be this happened, but this, or this happened, therefore this.
Okay, so it all has to be connected. So in my house, it's like we just finished a home edition because we wanted more space. It wouldn't end there, but it's because we just had a second baby and we lost our the office that my wife had the desk in, and which is in the bedroom now, and we needed a place to put that.
Well, in yours, I would tell, like, yours is a good example because it's a story we haven't told, so I can think it through in real time.
Let's just go there. So let's just practice it live. So I know why we did it, but how would you approach this?
Well, given I haven't, like, immediately I know a little bit about the context of the area. Like, you guys like the neighborhood that you're in. It's in an older home, so there's smaller floor plans and things like that. Like, you're going to run into issues of having little space. And that's going to be something that's relatable to somebody else in your neighborhood because they will have the same problem. Their new young family moves into the neighborhood, gets an older historic home that's beautiful. They absolutely love it, but it's not functional for their needs. That in itself is a relatable story.
Okay, so then so that's exactly what our house is. We love the area. We looked at like, do we move houses? Like when Cole came along, but the big thing for us was like, honestly, like, we have a really good mortgage rate because of what, we bought it in 2022.
Yep.
So we don't want to, then we looked at like, okay, if we want this space that we want, we're basically going to have to double or triple our mortgage. That doesn't feel worth it on top of then moving with a kid. So then what, if that becomes like a line that I say to the builder, is that then what like a builder may go, well, logically, if we could tell the story of like, you got a great mortgage rate and you don't want to move, like, is that part of the story as well? Or is that like, I guess like, how do you then piece in, or is it just basically like, this is our main storyline, Logan, like we need to dive deep into like in that case, okay, we don't want to move. We had a second kid on the way. We have an office that now is basically our bedroom. We have a good mortgage rate. Like, do you just pick one of those elements and dive into it? Or are you trying to weave all three of those things of like into one?
No, simpler is better. One of the things I found, especially in the editing process, is sometimes I'll go into an interview and I'll still be thinking of like, maybe there are all three of those. And what I'll do is, based on the resolution we get in the interview, that's a lot of times how I pick which one I go with. Like, one of the things, I mean, you talked about, and this can seem like a dumb small thing, but if the resolution was there, then it's great. Having Audrey's desk in your office or in your bedroom was like keeping you up at night if she was up late working on something.
I still have it because we haven't moved it out yet, but I wear headphones because like, and I bought her a new keyboard because hers was so loud and she takes client calls in there.
Right. So like that can even seem like a silly one. You're like, well, that's not emotional, but it's like it's affecting your sleep. That becomes a problem. If you then at the end say like, I'm sleeping so much better. Like I'm grateful for this every single night. That very might well be like, okay, well, there's a really good resolution. Then I think back to the beginning. Let's set that up as the main problem.
Oh, so are you like, so let's say in this pre-interview process, and when I say pre-interview, that's like before you actually go out there, are you asking them and basically trying to figure out all the different storylines of like, was this kid related? Was this sleep related? Was this mortgage rate related? And then you're kind of hearing out like which of those is like the more emotional piece for the client. And then at the end, do you have some sort of resolution where like, maybe I talk a lot about the keyboard and stuff in the bedroom, but at the end, there is no like, well, are you sleeping better now? And I'm like, not really.
Yeah.
Then you're like, I got to cut that one.
Yeah. It has to have a good resolution at the end. Like the Integrity Home Pro one, where are they going to move? Where are they going to, like, they had a beautiful line at the end where they're like, now we're just glad we didn't move because now we have all this, we have this, and we're so glad we didn't move. Like, it's almost like we got a new house, but we didn't have to. And now our kids can come back here to the same house. They made memories and that kind of stuff.
So it's basically the whole, I mean, this is like Steve Jobs' big thing was just like all of his slides, like when he creates a slide, has one focal point and that's it. He doesn't have like, I'm trying to get these three different points across. It's like every slide in this PowerPoint or this presentation has one single thought. That's it. It sounds like that's like how these stories are. It's like you may have 4 different storylines, but 4 ends up becoming like they are competing, and you're not drawn in because you're basically halfway doing each of them.
Yeah.
You got to pick one thing and go with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you think about it like this, like episodes of television, like at least before things became like an hour long, that 40-minute timeline, they were 20 minutes, but they were still divided up into usually 2 or 3 storylines. So then those storylines themselves are taking up 10 minutes, 6 minutes. And those are like, we orchestrated it to all happen very, like, we crafted everything to be as entertaining as possible. But even in that scenario, they are taking these multiple and putting them together for 20 minutes. So it's like, what I would say is 3 minutes is not that much time to be doing all that different stuff, like all those different storylines. Like, you really just need to pick one and go through it. Because essentially what's going to happen is that's what people are going to take away from it anyways. If you try and give them too many ideas, I think that's the Steve Jobs thing as well when he was talking about the marketing for the company. If you try and throw too many things at people, they won't catch any of them. Yeah.
All right, so you're in the pre-interview, you're figuring out basically what is like the storyline. So at the end of it, and when you go in and actually do the interview with the client, you're going in already with like a bit of a mindset around, okay, we're going to focus on, are you going to move or are you not going to move? And then I got to make sure I ask the right questions to really pull this thing apart even more, but everything's going to be geared around moving versus not moving.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, so we had that set up ahead of time with the client, and now let's talk about next steps, which is like, how do you actually set up? So you go to the home, where are you setting up? Does it have to be in the room that you did? What if the room was a bathroom, like just a for if you want to do a powder room, are you having them like sit there outside the powder room, or like how are you then approaching the interview? Like what should they be doing to set up? What kind of like camera work do you need? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, ideally you're setting up in a natural looking space. So if you did the kitchen, I like to usually frame them just in front of the kitchen or something like that. Like usually it'll be a kitchen, and then you can put them in the living room with the kitchen in the background.
Why? Like why not just put them like, hey, we did a kitchen, sit right here at the island?
You can. The way it functionally breaks down is you don't typically have that good of a view from the island, like zoomed in like that. Then you're just looking at like part of a stove or something like that in the background.
I guess it's like with like morning news where it's like they have this skyline in the background.
Yeah.
But it's not like, hey, we're in the heart of the city.
Yeah.
Here's a skyscraper behind us. It's like, okay, all right, I got you.
Yeah, so just functionally the way the space works, and you set up the camera, like that's going to be a videographer who doesn't know what they're doing. They're going to set up the camera there because that's where you sit in this space. But what's going to look better on camera is actually take those bar stools, move them into the living room, and then I always back up like Tom, almost hitting the far wall so I can get as much of the space in the shot as possible.
Okay. All right, so you have it set up where you're just outside of it, but maybe you hopefully have the space in the background.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like camera work. Or is it, I mean, we used to use an iPhone at first, and then we went out and bought expensive stuff, but like, I was using the example on a call yesterday where I was like, it's less about the equipment where people go out and they buy the nicest drones and they're like, I can't do these video interviews because I want to do it myself until I get like a $2,000 camera.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you've had like HBO shows that are edited with iMovie.
Yeah.
So it's not about the camera to a certain extent, I would imagine. Like at a certain point, I mean, I guess I'm hoping that you're going to say it does matter because we spent a bunch of money on these cameras.
No, it does. It does. It's not the most important thing. But it, like, the camera kind of limits what you can do. I always tell people that, like, if they're trying to get started, I think that argument works better for social media is then fine, use your phone, film that kind of stuff, just make things. But if you're really trying to get across the quality of work that you do and make something that looks prestigious, then you need a higher quality camera and somebody who knows how to work it.
Because I'm a firm believer of like, I know we all have to get started somehow. And like when I first look back at like the YouTube videos that I produced 9 years ago, at the time it was like the best that I got. But I think at that point it was like, okay, it wasn't that common to be doing YouTube. Like it wasn't nearly as big as it is now. So like I feel as if I could get by a little bit more, but when I look back now, I'm like, I would not have hired that guy. Like, it is me in a small office by myself.
Yeah.
Like, scribbles on the whiteboard, but like it was.
That's what you had.
It's what I had, but it's again, I think in 2026, if that's like, it's to the point where like a resume, like if you submit a resume for CGN and it's not done correctly, or if it's like formatted wrong, I'm like, you could have ChatGPT write this thing where it has no errors. You could have Claude. You can go on Instagram and just say and like look up like, resume tips. Like if you're not even understanding enough to like do that stuff, like there is a bare minimum at this point of like resumes that like if you have formatting errors or if it's like more than a page long, like I'm tossing it in the trash because like there's so much information out there that if you can't figure that out on your own, like you're out. I personally feel the same way when it comes to video where like, and I also think that like interior work versus exterior work is also a very different setup of like there's a level of trust that needs to be built up more inside the house versus outside the house.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that goes into it of like it needs to be good enough quality video, visually and then audio wise for people to like basically trust that like, okay, this is high quality work that I can see coming from a high quality company.
Yeah. Yeah, you view people differently, that's putting out iPhone videos and social media and stuff that looks like it's like a good video production. Maybe you'll think, wow, that's fantastic. But ideally, like you don't even think about the video production. You just think about the work itself. Like it almost gets itself out of the way. So you're just thinking, wow, that space is beautiful. Like nobody watches an Architectural Digest video and goes like, wow, those must be some really good videographers. Like you just think like, what a beautiful space. So that's where you're trying to get to with the production.
There is. I remember when I bought my Hyundai I was just like, hey, I just want to see, like, I can't get to the dealership. Do you have any on the lot? And they're like, yeah, we have a couple. And I was like, would you mind sending me some photos? They're like, we'll send you a video. And they sent me a video, and they edited it like a music video where it's like they put music to it. And like the features that I wanted to see were just like the exterior and the interior color. And that's basically it. Because I'd already test drove one. I just wanted to see what it had. And they were like showing me how they can use like the remote, like the fob to pull it, forward and backwards remotely. And, as it's moving forward, he like put like a reverse on it. So it's like driving forward, then backwards and forward. Yeah. And it was just like, I didn't even need a video. I just wanted to see the photo. Like I get it versus like if he had done a video that's like, do you want a video? And I said, sure. And he's like, all right, I'm getting in. You got your 2 seats back here. You got your 3rd seats back there. You
want the video to get out of the way.
Yeah. I mean, like, I just wanted to know, like, okay, great. Like, maybe I hadn't seen it yet, but in that case, just show me, like, can I put 2 car seats in this thing comfortably or not? Yeah. That would have been so much better versus, like, check out how sick this was. And, like, it was terrible. I was just like, all right, man, but, like, can you actually send me some photos of the interior? Like, that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
So it then became more about like the edits, and I'm sure he probably spent a bunch of time editing this thing.
He could have just had some filters he thought was cool, but
he customized it and it had, let's say, like Logan and stuff like that. So like he personally edited this thing, and I was like,
that's what's gonna push you over,
right? And I was like, yo, this is sick editing. Like you pulled it forward to the beat dropping. So when it comes to like this sort of stuff, so like to your point, it's less about like the edit doesn't have to be amazing. People who are going to respect the editing are going to be other videographers. Yeah. But to most homeowners, they care more about the story and like what was actually done in the space, less about like the technical skills of everything. But it can't suck.
There's a good parallel here when I was talking about real estate. If you look up like real estate videographers and stuff, they'll have like all these crazy speed ramp transitions, and like you'll see the furniture getting built in the house as they're going through, and like they really pride themselves on like, look how sick this video is. The mark of a good testimonial videographer is you don't think about it. You just make it to the end of the video and you feel like it was a good use of your time. Like all of the work that they do, all the work like I pride myself in doing is just making it logically flow so that way you get to the end, and then when you get there, you feel like it was a good use of your time. Like the problems that were set up in the beginning were fulfilled. The questions that it raised mid throughout were answered. The questions you had coming into it were answered. That's what makes a good testimonial. Yeah.
So let's just go through the interview. So we know where to position them. Lighting's got to look good, which is a whole topic in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, you don't.
Yeah, audio, get a microphone. Yep. That's good.
Yep.
So let's move past the technical stuff. Let's talk about the actual interview questions. So you already go in knowing, are they going to move or are they not going to move?
Yep.
And we obviously know the answer was not move. How are you now approaching this interview? Like, what do you have, like a set list of like, these are the 20 questions I'm asking? Is it custom every single time? What does it look like?
We have a list of 10 questions I think that we send out to people if you want to pull those up. I used to use those a lot more religiously. As I've gotten used to it, I'd like to think that they're just innately a part of my process now, but I use them less and less. I do follow very rigid, like one of the things I'm very that I like to do for sure is right at the beginning have the interview, so that way the homeowners aren't sitting there awkwardly, the tension's building up, like icing the kicker kind of thing. You're coming in, videographer meets them, a little bit of small talk while you're getting set up, that kind of stuff, make them feel comfortable. I always let people know, like, before we get started, I can just tell them, like, hey, have you guys ever done this before, is usually one of the things I ask them to make them feel. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you're going to be, whatever their answer is, like, oh, well, you're going to be fine, it's going to be great. And, if you crazy mess up in some way, we can always take it out. So it's no worries, if you're talking and then later on you think, like, I wish I hadn't said that, just tell me after. I'm not going to make you look dumb. So I tell them all that. And then, the first thing I'll have them do is an audio check, say their first and last name, spell it out. That way I can make sure we're getting it right on the video. It also lets me check audio. But the first question I really ask is, tell me about the scope of work, what was done here. And it might be out of order in that 10-question list, but I always start with that just because it helps frame the rest of the conversation. It's possible I'm coming in with part of the knowledge of the project, but there's actually more that went into it than I'm unaware of. And also just goes ahead and starts off making sure that they've at some point said that in the interview, because you want for the audience watching to get that very clearly stated.
So you're asking for the scope of work. I know one of the things you're also asking is like, where, who are you, where you live, where are we located, like at what point do we then get into like the storyline? Because it's like, all right, we just had a kitchen done and boom, 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 and that's more of like logical, like we call them like IQ facts, where it's like specific things that were happening. But the EQ part, which is the emotional part, how do you then go from what was the scope of work done here, or tell me about this project, and how do you then transition into like, okay, well, like, why did you get this kitchen done?
Yeah, well, you can naturally transition that. Like, you don't even have to, like, think of specific questions that go that way. Like, we have some written down for you. But a lot of times what I go into is, like, okay, you want this done. And then one of the first questions I always ask is, why now? Like, a lot of times it's like, we moved into the house 3 years ago. We've always hated the kitchen. We wanted it done. It's like, okay, well, why now? And usually that gives you some indicator for, okay, here's something I can dig into. It's like, well, our last kid moved out at this time of year, or we just had another child, like, so this happened, or something like that. Like, one of our parents is getting elderly, so they're coming to move in with us, usually a family change or something like that. But usually that, typically, wherever that, here's why we did it now, that can often lead you to the emotional pull.
So on that, how do you know how far to take it? Like, I know we talked at the beginning, like, oh, they're crying, but like,
Yeah.
do you want this person to like start crying about like, I love my kitchen so much that I didn't move? Like, or is it just kind of like,
if it happens, it happens. I mean, we used to do like 30-minute, 40-minute testimonial shoots, and it was just taxing to get through. You're asking a lot of the homeowner at that point. It immediately becomes more expensive to shoot and to edit, because, if you shoot for 40 minutes, it'll take you twice as long to edit that much. So we used to really go into that, and what changed is one day we were going through and we were studying HGTV with the crew, and we were looking at how do they format their stories and stuff. I remember the time that they were talking about they had a family member with cancer who had passed away, and it was their home, and they were working on that home. And they literally just like mentioned that, and then went into the thing, and they mentioned it a little bit at the end. And I was like, well, this is somebody who died, and they gave it literally all of 15, 30 seconds. And now it stuck with you throughout the rest of the video, but you don't have to like have them sit there and sob and like, well, tell me about the pain of that and that kind of stuff. Like, you really just need the context for what it is, and you can move right on. It's nice if you can have a single emotional line, something that's like in the video I was editing earlier today, like there's a difference between saying like, so that's why I went forward with him or something like that, or so let's get when can we get started, I think was what the put in, like that conveyed more eagerness. It was the same idea, but it's like, oh, now you're showing that he's eager to get it done. When can we get started? So it's nice if you can have an emotional sentence, but you really only need one or two sentences about the emotional pull. You don't want to linger there.
We don't need to go this whole thing about like, so we talk about the scope, then it's like, why now? And it's like, well, we were between moving, or like my parents are getting older, or like my parents are getting older and they slipped.
Yeah.
And that was the final straw.
Yeah.
And I guess, I'm guessing it's more of like the heavier of what they say, the shorter it could be. Because like in that case of like, so-and-so had cancer and they passed away, like that is such a heavy statement that like you don't necessarily need to then draw out 5 minutes of like how they died and like the journey to death. It was just more of like, that's so heavy. It's like, okay.
And it's also like, that's not what the person watching the video came there for. So it's almost like you're bait and switching them and being like, learn about this person's sad story about cancer. And you're like, truthfully, don't care. I'm here to see the thing that I came to see.
So it's got to be enough that it's like, yep, that's me, or like, yep, I understand the emotional impact of why they did it, but let's just move on to the next piece. Okay, so we go through the scope, then we go through why'd you get it done. Let's say we get deep enough, whether, and on that, it's not like we need them to say one sentence. It's more of like you're interviewing them, and it might take 2 or 3 minutes of them talking through it, but when it comes to the edit, which we'll get through
then
next,
you cut it down to a single sentence.
Then you cut it down to the single sentence that gets the impact, but you're still asking like, why not move? Like, what were your options? Like,
like the example you gave of like my parents fell, Like I would go into another question based on that. Like my parents fell. I'd be like, can you tell me like about that experience? Like what was that like when you got that call? And if something comes from that, great.
That's pretty good.
I
So
might.
I was thinking when you're like, I would have gone into that, like, where'd they fall? Or like,
Oh,
did
no,
they
no.
slip? Or like,
No.
okay, interesting. But it's like, how did that, like, how did you, like, that whole, like, tell me about the experience of, like, when you got that call. Like, that's huge.
Yeah. So that might lead into a more emotional bit. And if I cut the question, I cut the question. No big deal.
Okay. So we go back through, like, the why now, which typically is going to drop into, like, the emotion behind it. Then are you going back into, like, what were the needs of the project, or what are the things that you, like, enjoyed about this? Or, like, I mean, I know most remodeling companies, like, their number one thing is going to be all about, like, well, what was it like working with us, and how did you like, using a project management software, and what was it like with your project manager?
That's
like,
probably the part of a testimonial I skip the most.
like, you as the viewer, or you as the
When I'm making them.
oh,
Yeah.
well, then let's talk about that. Like, where do you then take it, and why do you skip those?
So there are times when like maybe that's helpful. Like one of our clients, 7-Day Kitchens, like the whole premise is that like a lot of stories that they can tell is something like we were moving from this place to this place and we needed to get the project done in time. And so we were at a distance. Well, now your communication efforts become helpful because you're selling to people that are at a distance. Or the process. They talk about like, there could be another family that's like, we just couldn't believe how quickly it got done. Like we were noticing the crew was incredibly efficient. Now it's relevant to their story. Like there was a reason they wanted to get it done quickly. Maybe it's like they have kids and they didn't want to move out of the house. So it's like those little things, you can add them in, but like maybe pick one or two, and they need to tie into that overarching story that we talked about, because the South Park rule, it needs to have relevance to the overarching story. Otherwise, your mind just reads it as irrelevant detail, forgets it, and after a while of enough of those, you get bored and turn the video off.
Okay, so this is like with my edition, I've got 2 young kids. They did dust protection.
Yeah.
If I never mention the kids, the dust protection then just becomes like
Irrelevant.
kind of irrelevant. But if I'm like, I got kids,
Yeah.
and I needed to make sure as we're doing this whole thing was like, it was done, like to have this extra space as we're growing. Like I wanted to make sure whoever we end up using was cognizant of that. And then as we're talking through, like, if we go through a process, it's like, we're not doing a 5-minute spiel about like the entire step-by-step process. It might just be little vignettes, if you will, around when this thing was getting done as it's related to a growing family. What is important? What was important was that everybody is vetted, or we have dust protection, or we have the ability to put locks on things so like Gray doesn't go in there and try to bust down a door. Yeah. So it's the relevancy is what.
Yeah, like I remember one of these testimonials that I did a while back where the story I went into was like she really wanted to brighten up the space. And I wouldn't do this now, but we went into a lot of like her house was always dark when she was a kid, and her mom would always close the windows and that kind of stuff. So she really wanted to open up. And thinking back on it now, I remember there was a part where she was talking about, I hope to God I didn't put this in the edit, but I know I debated it for a long time because I remember it. She was so impressed with like the crew that they had coming in that like she had another previous experience where people had stolen from the house, and she didn't feel like she was worried about that happening again. Those are 2 completely different things.
Well, let's talk about that part, because like that is because I actually brought this up as an example yesterday. It was like I watched they had a professional videographer come in and tell the story of the project. And it was the story part itself was good. The editing was good. The pacing was good. I liked the video, but the whole storyline was this remodeling company kept finding dry rot, and they kept fixing it, but the price of the project kept going up. Oh, okay. So basically what ended up happening was it wasn't like they found it, they fixed it, and we're good. It was like they found it, they fixed it, but my project price kept going up and up and up. And that basically, to me, introduced an entire like scenario.
It's like a problem you hadn't considered.
Yeah,
beforehand.
and like there's a level of like you want to be upfront with this stuff, but it's like, hey, trust me, like our crew, nobody's been to Epstein's Island. And you're just like, well, why would you
say that?
Why would you include that in this? Like that doesn't make sense here. So
we've searched through all the documents. Yeah. Nobody's name comes up once.
They've never been there, like nothing redacted. So it just becomes like, okay, like it's a good overall like story, but to sell the job, which is basically what the point of these things are,
Yeah.
that doesn't matter as
Yep.
much. Or the whole through line, which is like, yeah, they're going to get the job done, but it's going to cost a lot more than I was thinking it was going to get done. That also is introducing something negative where it's that.
Yeah, you could. I mean, because the other way to play that storyline is maybe they were concerned about like how long this would last in their home. Like they know there's structural problems. They want to get somebody that's thorough. And so then you could kind of take it from the perspective of their crew is extremely thorough. And now I have the utmost confidence that we actually have a solid foundation for our house.
Got it. So it's basically not saying like, hey, that the thought is still we trust the crew, and it's not necessarily saying because the last crew stole from us where you're like, oh shoot, like that. Like when Audrey and I were like looking for a builder, that was never a thing on our mind was like, do we have to lock up our stuff?
Yeah.
But if that was something that I saw was like, hey, you're going to have to lock up your stuff. The thought is not like, oh, I'm definitely going to go with this crew. The thought is then we're just at this point going to move because I don't even want to do a project in the first place because this just took all the wind out of my sails.
Yeah.
It's no longer like this company versus somebody else. It's now, do I even do this thing at all?
Yeah.
So not putting that stuff in. So we're talking about the process a little bit. Let's talk about like the end result or like the impact of it.
Well, before we go there,
Okay.
we skipped a section, so I want to go back to it. So after I go through, okay, I know why they want the project done. I know why they're doing it now. The next logical step in the story that sometimes I'll include if it's relevant, but I always ask is, what did you do next? How'd you go about finding a contractor? Because one of the things that will tell you is when they answer that question, they often explicitly tell you what's important to them. And if they are the ideal client, there's a very good chance what's important to them is going to be important to your next person. So even if you don't include it, it's great information to have.
All right. So if they say, I got it from a referral, it was a friend of mine that said you should go with this company.
Yeah.
Do you just leave it at that?
No, it's like, okay, why them specifically? Why did they refer you? What was important to you? What factors were you looking for when considering this? What was the most important thing to make them the right fit?
So basically what they're saying is like, oh, they brought up the fact that like, they were super trustworthy. Like the crew was like, they checked in every single day. Like they became quote unquote part of the family. Are you then trying to find like anything specific that could then tie back into the storyline as well?
I would say like, if I find it, great. The middle section I'm less concerned about. It's more about, do you have a problem set up at the beginning and then clear resolution at the end? If there's something in the process that you have to include that ties in, then yes. But you can also talk about features and that kind of stuff in the middle. So possibly.
So let's talk about the feature part.
Okay.
So features, is it like, hey, highlight the top 3 things that you like about this space? Is it give me all the things? Like
ideally, they are things relevant to the problem.
So are you asking them in an interview, they're like, hey, what are all the things that you like? And ultimately, in my case, if I was like, oh, I love the fireplace, I love the ceiling fan, and I love the skylights, that had nothing to do with me adding additional office space into my house. If you take it at face value.
Yeah.
So are you then saying, great, well, tell me about like why do you like why the fireplace? Because like for me, we didn't initially have the fireplace, but the fireplace then became, well, if we're going to do this thing, I would love a working fireplace because I would love to have a room that we could do Christmas in.
Yep.
So are you then asking like why the fireplace? And if they're like, honestly, just love heat, that's not going to cut it. But if it's like, well, we originally didn't have it, but we started to do it. Now that's tying back into the growing family part of it.
Yeah. Again, like you can think about these in 2 different ways. Like you can think of these as like upsells or features for people to get excited about. Something that is part of the thing that solves their problem that other people watching the video will say, maybe I hadn't considered how functional that would be. Now that I see it in practice, that would really help solve our problem as well. That's like the ideal.
All right, so you're having them talk about the different things, and they're all still sitting there. And at the end, are you then like, great, now what does life look like? Would you recommend, like, what would you say to somebody who's on the fence? Like, are you asking all those questions again?
Yeah, so we go through, okay, we've talked about, we talk about what they had done, why they wanted it done, why now, how'd they pick a contractor, which then the process stuff that we talked about a little bit out of order. What was the experience like working with them? What things stood out to you, specific moments, things like that, if it's relevant. Then I specifically will say, how are you enjoying the space now? How do you find yourself utilizing the space now? How is it different than when you got it. Sometimes I'll backtrack and say, what did the space feel like before, and what does the space feel like now? And then you can, in the edit, move some of that stuff forward or backwards, wherever it goes. But getting them to specifically describe the feeling of walking into the space, for a lot of spaces, that's really helpful.
All right, so we have, and in this interview, how long is that whole thing? You said it used to be like 40 minutes long, which was draining.
15 minutes.
15 minutes?
20 at max, yeah.
Okay. So you're having them talk through all this stuff, and the video at the end is not a 15 or 20-minute video. So before we talk about the editing part of it, because it's like a huge part of all this stuff, let's talk about B-roll.
Yeah.
How are you going out, and when we say B-roll,
last question, before we go to B-roll, last question I always say is, would you recommend them? Obviously, and if, it's best if they can say we would recommend, not just yes, but having them say we would recommend this company. And I always ask, what would you say to somebody in your position who's on the fence?
Why? Because I feel like the whole time is like, we had this project, it was too, my house was too small, we have a second kid on the way, I gotta get this desk out of my house because we have a growing family, yada, yada, yada. Now we have this fireplace, we're gonna spend Christmas there.
Yeah.
And by the way, you should hire this company. Like, that feels out of place.
So it shouldn't, because midway through they're obviously going to meet the remodeler, and they're gonna help them solve their problem. And I'm not saying this is a thing you need to go a lot into at the end, but literally a single line in the video saying, we would definitely recommend them, like, here's why it was beneficial to us, is you should definitely have that. Sometimes I end with an emotional line about the space. Sometimes I'll end with an emotional line about their experience working with the remodeler. It depends on which one has a better response in the video specifically.
Okay. So you're asking about, at the end, somebody's on the fence, what are you saying, or would you recommend them, why or why not?
Yep.
Hopefully that then ties back into, like, they were great, they were reliable, my kids loved them.
Yeah.
And if it now becomes like my kids loved them, that makes it much easier to then consider it in the edit of, like, great, let's end with that. Of like, it ties back to the kids.
In the interview portion, without going overboard, again, I'm really that 20-minute timeline tops. I'm trying to just collect as much as possible. I have a good idea, but I'm trying to collect stuff. And it's almost like, okay, we got kids hit on the intro, the explanation, and kids hit on the dust protection, and we have a good line at the end about the kids. It's probably going to end up being kids as the main storyline here.
Got it.
Maybe we have, like, we considered moving here, but we don't have it for all three pieces, so that's going to be a less solid angle to take all the way throughout. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk B-roll.
Yep.
What is B-roll?
B-roll is the footage, that is the technical term for the footage that you will see as they're talking. A-roll will be the sit-down shot of a person talking. The B-roll will be the thing that they are talking about. So if they're talking about how much they love their new sink, or the functionality of it, the B-roll is going to be a shot of the sink.
So basically, this is like, you think about, I don't know, like Planet Earth. Like, you have Morgan Freeman narrating it, but as Morgan Freeman, he's speaking, you're then seeing shots of the antelope that he's talking about.
Yeah.
That is this. So as they're talking about the sink, it's not that you're like then walking over to the sink to then capture the sink as they're talking about it. This is just straight up, you have one camera interviewing them about all their stuff. And then is it afterwards that you go in and say, all right, they just talked about these 10 features that they absolutely love.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that we then do like a walkthrough showing each of those 10 features.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like you're making a checklist. Usually by the end of the interview, I'll have a pretty solid feeling of, okay, this is what the overall story is going to be. And then that can influence what I go through and shoot throughout the kitchen. Yeah.
Okay. So you're just going through at the end and just walking through and basically just capturing
Yeah.
all the elements of the kitchen.
You want a few different wide shots. If you have before photos or before videos, matching those angles is always helpful. Like literally looking at the before photo and then trying to line it up to make it the most satisfying before-after resolution you can have. And then detail shots of everything mentioned in the video for sure. We don't have to go into the specifics of how to shoot it because I don't think you guys will need that, but that's something to be looking out for. And I would say the one thing, if you're thinking about somebody to hire, is the video should be mostly shots of the kitchen or the things that they're talking about. One of the easiest ways to make a testimonial boring is to have a static shot of a person speaking to camera for 3 minutes.
And we've seen that where I remember we had somebody send that to us where the video, the story itself was, I would say, a 5 out of 10. The camera work, as far as like the setup of the interview, was like a 9 out of 10. It looked crisp. It was awesome. But the whole time they were talking about this space, and you didn't see the space until the very last like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So you basically had to just, for the first 2 minutes, listen to what they talked about in this one bathroom. And at the very end, then show the bathroom. And then you're like, oh, okay. But like the whole time it was just focused on them just sitting there.
Yeah, you want to, as much as possible, be showing the space because, again, that's what the person's coming to see. So at the very beginning of all my videos when I'm editing them, I put in usually 3 to 5 quick clips of here's what we're going to see through in the video by the end of it.
So let's talk about the edit.
Okay.
All right, so how do you start this stuff off? Because we're talking about, it's all about the storyline, and you want to get people bought into this stuff, but like we used to start off with the storyline where it led off with like, let's just show this person talking about their problem and stuff like that. But then Meta actually showed us that was wrong.
Yeah, when we did ad testing, we found out that those all did worse.
So basically what was happening was we would have somebody, and it would be the homeowner sitting there talking about their kitchen, but ultimately that was not what people wanted to see.
Yeah, we would put a ton of work into the emotion of like, wow, somehow we packed this into a 30-second thing, and like they can still get the concise summary of the story. And then we A/B tested that against one that was essentially just some pretty shots of the kitchen, and the pretty shots of the kitchen won.
So then how do we then adjust the testimonial? So you said you start off with like a couple shots. Is it the afters? Is it like that what you would consider to be like the quote unquote like the feature or the money shot? Like how are you determining? Is it always like we always lead off with like the after shots? Because I know sometimes we do also lead off with like just the location where it's like maybe a sign that says welcome to this neighborhood, because that creates like a neighborly effect. So I guess how do you determine what that opening shot is?
Yeah, so this is, again, becomes important when you think about what's the purpose of the video, how are you relating to people. If it's kind of like a one-off location, like that's not going to be super relevant, but the project is very aspirational, that's what you want them to relate to, then you put that at the beginning. But a lot of times it's beneficial. We definitely saw this in ads. If you picked a very small localized area and you said that up front, people, when they watch the ad, they're immediately like, oh, I'm in that area. That directly applies to me. It's almost the same as like when you're in a crowd and you hear your name, your attention immediately goes over there.
But a safe bet's going to be just put the a couple after shots of the space at the beginning, because that's going to be the thing that grabs the attention.
Well, specifically for ads, yes. If you're just thinking about a testimonial, I do both. Like it will be like, hey, I'm Joe Fry. We're out here in Tucson today. I want to show you the project that we just finished up for Randall.
Okay, so why is it different? Because I know like the medium in which this is being served, where it's like if this is a Super Bowl commercial where everybody's huddled around the TV waiting on edge to watch these Super Bowl commercials, you've got a much more captive audience.
Yeah, the context is different. When somebody's coming on the page and clicking it, they're okay with Joe giving an introduction to himself of what the video is going to be. When you're just scrolling through social media and they haven't even really
like registered,
consented almost to being to looking at this project, the thing that's going to catch their eye immediately could be the project. Like they're not going to give it, they don't care who Joe is, they're not going to give him a second to say his name.
So if we just had a rule of thumb that just said safe bet, whether it's an ad or it's a longer video that's 2 or 3 minutes long, what would you say is like a rule of thumb that's like?
Yeah, you can usually start off with some nice music and like 3 to 5 shots of the project and then get into the video if you want. Yeah.
Okay. Talk to me a bit more about the edit. Like, I know one of the biggest things that I've seen like you progress on is like the pacing. Mm-hmm. So at first, we used to have 6-7 minute videos. It was very heavy on the interview. Yes, we'd have some B-roll as you went through it, but we've talked about this before. I showed it at a conference, and 2 minutes in, somebody takes the headphones off, who's a remodeler, was like, yeah, it's pretty boring. And I was like, it is pretty boring.
Midway through, they go like, yeah, I get it.
Right, and that's bad. Like, that's like, hey, it's not you, it's me. Yeah. Like, I just don't have the attention span. It's like, well, you're in this space. Like, if this doesn't capture you, it certainly is not going to capture a homeowner.
Yeah,
so,
it's like, I get it. Yeah, I could see what was happening.
Right, which is worse than them going, like, this is boring. Because at least that way you know.
Yeah.
So talk to me a bit more about, like, when you do the editing, like, how are you then deciding what to keep, what to cut, and then talk about, like, what pacing is?
So I think a lot of it we have already talked about with picking whatever that single through line is and just limiting your things to that. You can have all these features that people will bloat the video because they get excited they'll have beautiful clips of somebody talking about, like, here's an amazing feature of this kitchen that's not relevant to the overall story, or here's an amazing experience we had with the contractor and why we love them so much that's not relevant to the story. And so you'll be very tempted to put those things in. But I think we've talked a lot in this conversation already about, like, keep that single through line, and that will help a lot with your pacing.
What is pacing?
Pacing of the video, this will come in more to editing. I guess I won't tell you how to do it. I'll help you recognize it in other people's stuff. Like, one of the biggest things I found out is start off faster when you're showing the previews, the end previews of the project, and have a musical cue that, like, shows the music and kind of like an aspirational, oh, cool, this is what we're going to see in this video. Then let's slow things down, cut maybe no music for a few seconds, and introduce the homeowner, and here's their problem. Then we get into, maybe it's like the before photos or like a design rendering. Now let's slowly build that music back up. And one of the things I'm doing with music now is, well, I'll just say it. They have stems, and so it'll be like the drums and the bass track and the guitar track and something like that. I'll have all of the tracks there in the beginning. You get the full, boom, this is everything that's a part of the song. And then I'll strip it all down, and I'll slowly add in instruments as the video goes along. So then by the time you get to the end, oh, I recognize this song. I heard it in the beginning. Audibly, you're doing the same thing that you're doing visually with the kitchen. So it's...
Oh, so you're, like, building, like, as a story is building, you're also building up, like, the music cues with it, where as you keep introducing a new track into it or a new instrument.
Joe comes into the story, so now we add in the bass line. It keeps us moving along. It, like, the bass line is like keeping a steady beat, like like you're feeling momentum build and things like that. The video we just finished up for him, like, at the very end, there's this, like, beautiful violin part that I just have at the very beginning and just at the very end.
Could you put the audio of that in this podcast and just say, this is what I mean? Like, you'll miss all the visuals, but
sure,
like, could you show what you're, or like let them listen to, like, how that stuff builds, and that way you can kind of hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name's Joe with Fry Remodeling and Construction. We're out here in Tucson, Arizona, and I want to show you what we did in this bathroom.
The bathroom was a 3 foot by 3 foot stall in a master bath, and I need to be able to sit down when I take a shower. So a 3 foot by 3 foot shower is just not going to work. Now, since I'm an engineer, I put a design down on paper that took out the existing alcove wall, put a pony wall and put glass, and have a walk-in shower that has no door. And so I knew I had to find a remodeler that had experience in this. I looked at remodelers on Google, and that's where I met Joe. Joe knew exactly what I was talking about. He said, oh, I have pictures of something like that.
I was like, hey, Randall, this is exactly what we did for this client like 2 years ago. We can do what your vision is here and make it very accessible for you.
And I said, well, let's get me on the schedule.
So what we did is built this 52-inch pony wall. We put the mixer valve here, and then this is the diverter. So that way you can turn on the shower before you hop in, get it nice and warm, get it to your temperature before you hop in there. A couple of grab bars. We got the rain head, shower head with a handheld, and then another handheld down here. Lots of usability in here as far as all those features go.
I'm enjoying my new space. I can actually have a corner seat in the walk-in area and a corner seat where the shower heads are.
He can get a chair in here, he can sit on the bench, and just makes it really functional for him where he can enjoy it and not have any restrictive issues as far as taking a shower.
So it's hard to find people like Joe. And all I can say is, after working with other contractors, once I found the real contractor in town here, Fry Remodeling, that's where I felt comfortable.
So if you're looking to get a remodel project done on your home, feel free to go to our website, reach out to us, and we'd love to grab a phone call with you and see how we can help you out.
Because that would be cool, because that's I mean, this is like, as you're explaining, like, I didn't know any of that stuff, but like, it's like the whole Ben and Jerry's was so, like their flavors are so good because one of them, whether Ben or Jerry, has anosmia and he can't smell or taste. So basically, he was the official taste tester. He did everything based off texture. The texture is a huge part of why things taste good or bad.
You just don't, yeah, so that's exactly what I mean when I say like a good video editor, you won't think about it, you'll just feel it. And you'll feel like it was a good use of your time. There's a bunch of tricks you can play to do that. And the audio is one of those tricks of you hear a chorus that's typically, if somebody's making a song, it's something that's pleasing to your ear. And then you're slowly teasing them to that until at the end you play it again. And now it hits further because you've had the build up for it, you remember it, and now you recall it. And you're like, oh, I like that. You don't think that. Like, you aren't consciously thinking that. But that's what happens.
So basically in the edit, you're trying to keep this thing, when we say pacing, it's not necessarily that like you want the whole thing to feel very fast, like a TikTok video. It's more of like the things that when you want to capture attention, that's got to be fast. But when you want to draw out the storyline, that can slow it down. But then you want to make sure that you're kind of playing with the speed based off of, I guess, whatever segment of the video you're in with whatever the message is.
And I used to get cute and try like, oh, we did this and things were going well, and then this thing happened and let's slow it down again. I think for a testimonial, you really only need the one arc of like, let's go fast, then we're going to start off slow and slowly speed up.
Okay. So you're not like, okay, because it's not like, because if you go super fast of like, yeah, they had cancer and died, boom, right into the next thing, it's like, it's too fast for something heavy.
Yeah. Okay. So it's, a movie can go up and down because it has a 2-hour runtime. But for 3 minutes, you really don't need that.
And is 3 minutes kind of like the rule of thumb here?
2 to 3 minutes is what I like.
So basically, you're trying to take a $300,000 project with all this emotion, all this storyline and everything, and whittle it down into 2 minutes. And you may be thinking, wow. Because I remember doing this for Premier Ponds for my dad's pond company, where I was like, this is going to be an amazing testimonial. It was like 13 minutes long. And they were just singing the praises. And there was like, this guy was like a customer experience officer, like that, like his job was all about client experience. So I thought this is going to be amazing. I had the pond in the background and they were sitting there and it was awesome. It was 13 minutes and like people barely watched it.
Yeah, because when you think about the experience of somebody watching it, like what are they getting from that after a certain point?
Right, and but like the time I thought this is exactly what somebody who's going to spend all this money is going to want to sit here and watch 13 minutes to like then hear at the end this guy's credibility that's like he's a CXO and all this stuff. But ultimately it was like nobody watched it.
Yeah, because I've been thinking about this a lot recently. Is like if somebody's actually trying to get real tactical information about should they trust you, they'll go to your reviews. They're not going to watch a testimonial.
Yeah,
like. You have a control of the edit for a testimonial. You don't have control of the edit for reviews. I mean, I guess you can get stuff removed sometimes and things like that if it's not legit. But like if they're wanting just the pure logical information, they're going to your reviews. Now, you can get them more emotionally bought in. Once they're already like leaning towards you, like then there's a state of like they want to verify you and they kind of want it to be true. Like they're like, I think this is good. I just want to get excited at this point. I want to watch more stuff. That's what the testimonial is good for.
Got it. So then to kind of end it here, we've talked about how to set the testimonial up ahead of time, the actual capturing of it, what interview questions are we meant to be asking, what is B-roll, the edit. Out of all those things, what would you say is like the most important thing to get right?
It's really tough.
Because you kind of need it all, but like...
You need it all, but I guess I would have to say the edit. Yeah, because that's where, that's the thing that has the lasting impact on it. Like, you can have absolutely gorgeous visuals and an amazing interview, but if your edit is, again, 13 minutes long, people aren't going to watch it. It's going to be boring. And on the flip side, like, editing is what I take the most pride in because there are times where I've really screwed stuff up in the shoot. I'm like, that did not go the way I want it to, or this thing looks bad. But if you're creative in the edit, you can make it work, and sometimes it even works better. You know, past mistake you made, you can turn it around and make it. It brings you something new out of it. So I would say the edit.
Cool. Anything final thoughts on video testimonials that we haven't talked about?
I don't think so. I just hope people take away that like there's more to this than doing it yourself. Like maybe if you're just taking away the idea of like a good edit is one I'm not thinking about. I'm just feeling emotional about the story, or I got all the way through. Hopefully that will open your eyes a little bit as you're assessing who to hire and things like that.
Yeah, and my whole goal of this is like not necessarily to say like do not go out and do these because like they are beneficial, but for a lot of people, like especially everybody who I've talked to about this stuff, I'm like you got to first focus on like other things, which is like social media videos are easier to do because it's more like forgiving, it's in and out. These are meant to be the things that like sell the work and get people really emotionally bought in from a persuasion standpoint versus like straight up like education. So like these need to be really well thought out. It's not just like, let's just rip some stuff together. Again, you can do it, but it's not going to have the impact that you want it to have. So just before you go out and spend a bunch of money on these things, like really identify what are the storylines that we want. Are they the right people? Do we then have the right video company that can then ask the right questions and edit it the right way? It's probably still going to take you a year of consistently doing this stuff to then really get this stuff super dialed in. But ultimately, like, they're super impactful if you can get them right.
I would point you to a couple of resources we'll put in the show notes of this. If you're at this point and you're thinking you want to kind of take on the interview and things like that yourself, we have our question list I'll put in the show notes. You can go through and do that. I have a few video walkthroughs of here's how I run a testimonial, here's what I ask, here's why I ask it, here's what I'm thinking about. Shorter, more tactical resources that you can watch videos on, as well as we'll put in the YouTube channel link to the people that we've done video testimonial for in the past. Like, we have a playlist where you can go through and see a bunch of good examples of good video testimonials. So then as you're looking to hire somebody and you're saying, well, how do I judge? You can look at these and have something to base it off of.
And we'll just put we'll just do like cgn.com/video or contractorgrowthnetwork.com/video. We'll make that just like, if you don't want to go to the show notes, because I don't think I've ever gone to somebody's show notes before.
Oh, you should. Sometimes there's good stuff down there.
All right. Well, either way.
Being a person who writes show notes.
Yeah, I know. /video. You can go grab all the stuff there.
Cool.
See you guys.